Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 8th, 2025, and we do have a date for when Barcelona will activate Joan Garcia's release clause. Also, Wolverhampton are interested in signing Gerard Martin. And finally, Ivan Perišić has been linked to Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. We'll begin this video with the news that today Lamine Yamal Spain lost the final of the Nations League in a penalty shootout where Portugal won 5-3 on penalties, taking home the UEFA Nations League. Now the match ended 2-2, and that's why it ended up going to a penalty shootout, a match where Spain were much more superior to Portugal during at least the first half. But once again, the terrible management of Spain's coach Luis de la Fuente cost Spain through the terrible substitutions that he made. And this was a repeat of kind of like what happened in the semifinals where Spain were beating France 5-1. Then Luis de la Fuente makes the weirdest substitutions, which make the team weaker and worse. And then the match ends up 5-4, where France nearly completed a comeback, an epic comeback. It didn't happen, thankfully. Spain made it to the final. But now Luis de la Fuente did the same exact thing, made terrible substitutions, made the team worse and weaker. Match ends in 2-2. It goes to penalty shootout, and Portugal ends up winning it. So that's one less international trophy that Lamine Yamal will be taking home. And again, all thanks to the terrible management of Luis de la Fuente, who refused to put in players like Dani Olmo, Fermin Lopez, Gavi. Now, I know that I'm just naming Barcelona players here, but hey, if there's one thing history has taught us, no Barcelona, no party. Whenever Barcelona players, play, they go on to win big things in Spain. But when they don't, I don't know. You guys tell me. Maybe I'm just, being biased here. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, we have a date. Yes. We have a date for when Barcelona will activate the release clause of Joan Garcia. Now, today, Espanyol's president made some statements stating that he hasn't heard anything from Barcelona. He doesn't know anything about Barcelona's interest when he said the following. There's been a lot of noise this past week, but that's all. Noise. Nothing has happened. As of today, Joan Garcia is an Espanyol player. We haven't had any contact with the player since the last match. The players are on vacation, and we're trying to respect this rest period equally with everyone. There has been no contact from either club or player. We must be respectful because every professional has the right to choose their path. But at the club, we are ensuring the contract we have signed. To make this decision, there is a clause that is deposited and releases the contract. Beyond that, we have nothing to negotiate. So the president of Espanyol is stating that he hasn't heard anything from the player, hasn't heard anything from any other clubs. Right now, there's a contract. Joan Garcia is a Espanyol player. He has a contract, and that contract has a release clause. And if anyone wants to take him, they have to pay the release clause. There will be no negotiation. Now, of course, we already knew that part, that Espanyol was not going to negotiate with anyone. Why would they? Joan Garcia is the best goalkeeper right now in La Liga. Why would you want to accept anything lower than 25 million euros? But don't worry, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's been revealed that Barcelona on Tuesday, so the day after tomorrow, they will officially deposit the 25 million euros in with La Liga in order to pay the release clause so Joan Garcia can become a Barcelona player. So Tuesday, Barcelona should complete their first official signing for the first team, and his name is Joan Garcia. Now on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, there's a new club interested, or I should say there is a club interested in one of Barcelona's defender, and it's no other than Gerard Martin. Now, Gerard Martin last season was a definitive starter for Rafa Marquez with Barca Athletic, and during this season, he surprised everyone when Hansi Flick called him up to the first team, and where he became, a regular for Flick. In fact, Flick has said a lot of good things about the player and would like to count on him during next season. And given his improved performance throughout the season, Gerard Martin has now attracted the interest of Wolverhampton, who have, of course, a really good relationship with Jorge Mendes, and Jorge Mendes, as you know, also has a very good relationship with Barcelona. So now Wolverhampton are interested in signing Gerard Martin. Now, so far, Barcelona have no intention to sell Gerard Martin because Hansi Flick wants to count on him. However, if the club receive an offer north of 12 or 15 million euros, they would consider it. Now, of course, it doesn't mean they would sell him. Simply, they would have to consider it. They would sit down. They would talk to Flick. Hey, they're offering us. What do you think? They would talk to Deco. They would think about it, right? But in order for Barca to even think about it, it has to be at least north of 12 to 15 million euros. Anything below, they're not even going to think 1 second about it. It's just simply going to be hang up the phone and move on. Now, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Gerard Martin. My feeling is that he will stay because, again, Flick wants him to stay. But, of course, things could change depending on what kind of offer Barcelona receive, because so far, what Barcelona have received from Wolverhampton is interest, not an actual official offer. All right, let's move on to the next bit of news, because today no more news has come out of Bilbao, where it kind of confirms the news that I broke to you yesterday, which was in regards to Nico Williams. Now, if you saw yesterday's video, the news was that Nico Williams was now considering extending his contract with Athletic Club de Bilbao, since Barcelona hasn't really made any moves for him. And well, the new news that is coming out of Bilbao now is that Nico Williams has told his entourage that the Premier League is not something that's ideal, that he prefers not to go to the Premier League, which could further reinforce the idea that he could end up extending his contract with Athletic Club de Bilbao, because if the player doesn't want to go to the Premier and he wants to stay in La Liga, there are only two options, right? Barca or Athletic Club de Bilbao. Barca doesn't want to make a move for him because he rejected them, so that, of course, only leaves the option of extending his contract with Athletic Club de Bilbao. Now, Chelsea and Arsenal are still very, very interested in the player, and they're going to continue trying to convince him to make a move. But for now, Nico is not looking to move, which brings me to my next point, because I've seen a lot of people comment whenever I've said that Barcelona should try to sign Nico. They always say, oh, well, his salary expectations are too high. Barcelona cannot afford this. Let me explain this. I explained this before, but I'll explain it again in case you missed it. Nico Williams has two different salary demands. He has the Premier League salary demands, and he has his La Liga salary demands. The one for the Premier League is much, much higher for two reasons. A, because the Premier League's clubs can afford to pay very, very high salaries. And B, is because the player doesn't want to go to the Premier. So it's kind of like, I don't want to go to Premier. If I have to go, then it better be for a lot of money, right? So he has a very high salary demand for Premier League clubs. He has a lower salary demand for La Liga clubs, whether it be Barcelona or Athletic Club de Bilbao. All right, let's end this video by talking about another winger, and this winger is no other than Ivan Perišić, who has been linked to Barcelona, but not in a way that I've seen some media outlets report it, because I've seen some reports saying that Barcelona want to sign Perišić. That is not the case. The real news, or what actually happened, is that the 36-year-old right winger, who can also play on the left, has once again offered himself to Barcelona. He did that last summer, and he just did it once again because right now he is looking to leave PSV Eindhoven, and he's looking to come to Barcelona. Now, obviously, at 36 years old, Barcelona are not considering Perišić. I mean, maybe in his prime, sure. But at 36 years old, that's not what Barcelona are trying to do. So, no, Barcelona are not interested in signing Perišić. This was simply the player offering himself to Barcelona. All right, that is all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I did upload another video. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you do. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, be Barça.